It's your first night in your new apartment. Your stuff is still in boxes. Your furniture, with the exception of the mattress on the floor, hasn't arrived yet. The utilities won't be turned on until the next day, so you're remaking do without. A flashlight and some candles will do for light until you go to sleep. Despite the creepy feeling of being in a dark, empty apartment all alone, you chalk it up to nervousness and try to get some sleep. A sound wakes you up. You lay there for a moment, waiting to decide if it was real or just your imagination being too loud. When the sound happens again, you check yourself for the time. 2 in the morning. You get up, using your cell phone for light, and make your way towards the kitchen, the apparent source of the noises. At first, you think somebody has broken into your apartment, but you choke down your reaction as you stare at the figure. It is a middle-aged man, wearing what amounted to striped pajamas and standing in front of the microwave with his back to you. Although seemingly solid, you can also see through his body. You're paralyzed, mostly out of fear, but partly out of curiosity. "Hey," you finally manage to say. The man looks in your direction, turning slowly. Your eyes open wide as you realize the man has no lower jaw, letting his tongue hang free. Your vision loses focus and the apparition disappears. A sound wakes you up. It's your phone vibrating against the floor. It's morning, or at least light is coming in through the window. You're back on your mattress and the missed call is from your mother. You're confused about the night before and still shaking from the experience of what you saw. Was it a dream or did you really see a ghost? Credited to Vaughn, the winner of our 2010 Halloween contest.
Susan and Ned were driving through a wooded empty section of highway. Lightning flashed, thunder roared, the sky went dark in the torrential downpour. "We had better stop," said Susan. Ned nodded his head in agreement. He stepped on the brake, and suddenly the car started to slide on the slick pavement. They plunged off the road and slid to a halt at the bottom of an incline. Pale and shaking, Ned quickly turned to check if Susan was all right. When she nodded, Ned relaxed and looked through the rain-soaked windows. "I am going to see how bad it is," he told Susan, and went out into the storm. She saw his blurry figure in the headlight, walking around the front of the car. A moment later, he jumped in beside her, soaking wet. "The car's not badly damaged, but we are wheel-deep in mud," he said. "I am going to have to go for help." Susan swallowed nervously. There would be no quick rescue here. He told her to turn off the headlights and lock the doors until he returned. Axe Murder Hollow. Although Ned hadn't said the name aloud, they both knew what he had been thinking when he told her to lock the car. This was the place where a man had once taken an axe and hacked his wife to death in a jealous rage over an alleged affair. Supposedly, the axe-wielding spirit of the husband continued to haunt this section of the road. Outside the car, Susan heard a shriek, a loud thump, and a strange gurgling noise. But she couldn't see anything in the darkness. Frightened, she shrank down into her seat. She sat in silence for a while, and then she noticed another sound. Bump. 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 It was a soft sound, like something being blown by the wind. Suddenly, the car was illuminated by a bright light. An official-sounding voice told her to get out of the car. Ned must have found a police officer. Susan unlocked the door and stepped out of the car. As her eyes adjusted to the bright light, she saw it. Hacked his wife to death in a jealous rage over an alleged affair. Supposedly, the axe-wielding spirit of the husband continued to haunt this section of the road. Outside the car, Susan heard a shriek, a loud thump, and a strange gurgling noise. But she couldn't see anything in the darkness. Frightened, she shrank down into her seat. She sat in silence for a while, and then she noticed another sound. Bump. 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 It was a soft sound, like something being blown by the wind. Suddenly, the car was illuminated by a bright light. An official-sounding voice told her to get out of the car. Ned must have found a police officer. Susan unlocked the door and stepped out of the car. As her eyes adjusted to the bright light, she saw it. Hanging by his feet from the tree next to the car was the dead body of Ned. His bloody throat had been cut so deeply that he was nearly decapitated. The wind swung his corpse back and forth so that it thumped against the tree. Bump! 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 Susan screamed and ran toward the voice and the light. As she drew close, she realized the light was not coming from a flashlight. Standing there was the glowing figure of a man with a smile on his face and a large, solid, and definitely real axe in his hands. She backed away from the glowing figure until she bumped into the car. Playing around when my back was turned, the ghost whispered, stroking the sharp blade of the axe with his fingers. "You have been very naughty." The last thing she saw was the glint of the axe blade in the eerie, incandescent light.
My maternal grandma lives alone at Bedok North Road, Block 144. My mom would go over to visit her regularly twice a week, Mondays and Saturdays, and on Wednesdays, she would fetch my grandma to my house at Siglap for dinner. Somewhere in August on one of the regular Mondays, as usual my mom went over to my grandma's house. Like any daughter, she would always ask if she had been living well, did she had her meals on time, etc. As always my grandma would always reply that she was fine and well, apart from some old people sickness. My grandma is 86 years old. My grandma told my mom, they conversed in Cantonese, "It's so strange lately, in the evening, a lot of people will come to the park across the block and just sit there, stand there, or even lie there. There's men, women and young kids as well. And they would be there throughout the whole night until the next morning where they'll go away. It's so strange. Don't they feel cold at night? And why don't the police chase them away?" My mom did not think much of it and told my grandma, "Mind your own business, lay." Anyway, that matter was laid to rest and they didn't talk about it. Not until the week after, on a Wednesday, after having dinner at my home, my grandma brought the matter back again while they were sending her back home. My mom, again, told my grandma to mind her own business. And once they dropped her off, my dad turned to my mom and said, "Isn't it the lunar 7th month? Could she be seeing things?" My mom said, "0K, let's test it out. Let's stay here till 10 p.m. Therefore my parents drove around the vicinity like silly fools until it is 10 p.m. My mom then told my dad to park the car by the park while she walked to the park. She then gave my grandma a call. When my grandma answered the phone, my mom told my grandma, "Go and take a look at the park from your window. Do you see people loitering around?" My mom said, "0K, let's test it out. Let's stay here till 1 p.m. Therefore my parents drove around the vicinity like silly fools until it is 10 p.m. My mom then told my dad to park the car by the park while she walked to the park. She then gave my grandma a call. When my grandma answered the phone, my mom told my grandma, "Go and take a look at the park from your window. Do you see people loitering around?" My grandma walked towards the window and said, "I so many people loitering around." My mom looked around the park surroundings. No one was there. My grandma then said, "I so many people loitering in the park." My mom looked around again, however there was no one. She freaked out and ran back to the car and told my dad to just drive home. On the journey back, my dad chided my mom, "You keep telling your mother not to be a busybody, yet you are trying to be one, and now you have frightened yourself. Let this incident cool down. I'm sure once the lunar 7th month is over, your mom won't see such stuff anymore." So my mom waited patiently till the lunar 7th month was over. She then resumed her visits. On one occasion, she brought mooncakes for her to eat. It was a long day and before she knew it, it was already 7 in the evening. Unable to contain her concern, she asked, "So now, do you still see people loitering downstairs at the park?" My grandma said, "Yes. They are still there." "Mom, really? ? How is it possible?" "Grandma, you don't believe, I show you." My grandma said, "Yes. They are still there." "Mom, really? ? How is it possible?" "Grandma, you don't believe, I show you." The both of them went to the window and looked down at the park. My mom could not see anyone. "Mom, where?" "I don't see anybody." "Grandma, yeah, can't you see?" They're slowly coming out already. Mom, where? Grandma, do you see these two persons sitting underneath that tree? Mom, no. Grandma, TSK. I'm so old, my eyesight is so much better than yours. See, those two under the tree. My grandma then pointed down at one of the tree in the park. Mom, I can't see. Grandma, how can you not see? I can see so clearly, the two of them. See, they're even looking up at us right now. That was when my mom freaked out and dragged my grandma away from the window. After that incident, she warned my grandma not to look towards the park anymore, and she told us not to mention about it ever again.
Sorry for interrupting you, but please subscribe Storyboy for more scary videos, and also smash the like button to inspire me more. And please share the video to your friends to scare them too. And drop a comment below and let me know what you feel about the video, and also go to the cards and vote on the polls about the video, and see the results and reactions of others too. Thanks in advance. And please help me to grow. Thanks again.